25 games to go for the Blackhawks. There's a lot to pay attention to. Even though the playoffs don't seem like they're going to happen, it would take kind of a miracle. Not a capital M miracle, but a miracle.
Yeah.
Few things. For me, number one is how Connor Bedard finishes the season. I think we've seen 2 Connor Bedards this year. We saw the Bedard before the injury, who was playing at an MVP level, putting up huge numbers, was on 120-something point pace?
124 point
at the time.
pace,
yeah, absolutely on fire. Looked every bit the player that they thought they were drafting number 1 overall in 2023. Then the injury happens, comes back a little bit slow from the injury. The offense isn't there. Started seeing some of the habits we saw the first 2 years with some not great turnovers and things like that. With the month off at the Olympics, with some time to get healthy and get some practices in, I really want to see Bedard get back to that level he was to start the season.
Yeah, I think not making the Olympic team is a blessing for him because having the shoulder be as close to 100% as possible is the best thing for him. He's going to be close to or above point per game once it's all said and done, which I think at the bare minimum, I think we were looking for that from him in year 3. So it'll be good to see who he's matched up with, how much how much ice time he gets with top guys, whoever it ends up being, how the line mates will shift out. But yeah, I'm excited to see how he closes the year. One of the guys that could be on his line to close the season is a guy that I am anticipating arrives before the end of the regular season, and that's Anton Frondell. We've been following his season closely this year, playing in Sweden, kind of counting down the days till that regular season is over, because he's going to act like a trade deadline acquisition, quote unquote, for this group, because by the time that season is over in Sweden, likely it's by the end of March, first week of April, he can kind of come over, get a little taste of the NHL, play with some of these guys, and just kind of close the book on this season with some confidence and go into next season, kind of like we saw at the end of the last few years where Frank Nazar played the last couple of games and had a really fun start to his NHL career. Sam Renzel and Oliver Moore came out and played 9 games at the end of last season. So I'm really excited to see when Anton Frondell lands with this team, what he looks like, because what he's done this year in Sweden has been awesome for a guy at his age, and I just want to see him play in the NHL, play against those the men in the NHL in that smaller rink, and kind of see where his game's at and get a look for the future.
It's hard to know what to expect from him because he is so young and has obviously not played at the NHL level before, but the SHL is a league full of men. It's not just a bunch of kids he's stiff-arming and overpowering. There's grown-ass men who have been professional hockey players for a long time, many of them former NHLers.
Marcus Kruger is his team captain.
Exactly. That could probably still play in the league. So I really want to see how he adapts to the NHL, and I don't anticipate a giant learning curve from him. I feel like he could be a guy you plug in right away and get results from right away. Now, he's not going to reach a ceiling immediately, but I think he's a guy who can come in and contribute pretty quickly. For me, the other thing I'm looking for is the development of the young defensemen, and especially Artem Levshinov. You've got Levshinov, Renzel, and Korchinski on the roster right now. It looks like you're probably going to move on from Connor Murphy at the trade deadline. That's going to give you a really young defensive group next year. You're talking Vlasic, Crevier, Kaiser, Levshinov, Renzel, Korchinski, maybe Ethan Del Mastro, right? Maybe Matt Grzelcyk is back. They've got to answer the question this year if they need to go add defense coming into next year, right? Because if they're not ready to go with 7 defensemen under the age of 25, they're going to have to find a veteran to come in and do it, or 2 to do it if they feel like maybe Korchinski's not ready, maybe Levshinov's taking longer than we thought, maybe we're not totally comfortable with Ethan Del Mastro sitting 9 games out of 10. We've got to solve this problem. I really want to see how the young defensemen finish this season, especially once Connor Murphy, and if Connor Murphy is moved at the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, this deadline's in what? 4 games from now?
Yeah.
5 games from now? So this is going to be the longest time that we've seen this NHL group be this young. And I think it'll be very interesting to see how they rotate in Korchinski and Rinzel and Levshunov and how they get those guys ice time with and without Connor Murphy likely to be part of the group, because that's the group you're moving forward with. Like you mentioned, you add Del Mastro into the mix as well. Like that's the group you're moving forward with for the time being, because you don't really have anybody else that looks to be one of those young up and coming defensive guys that you're putting your hat on and saying, yeah, he's going to be in the NHL. Like they have some, but they don't project to be at the spot where guys like Levshunov, Rinzel, Korchinski, and so on project to go. So, aside from them maybe taking a defenseman in the first few picks of the draft and that defenseman, skyrocketing in their development and being the next Matthew Schaefer or whatever, which I don't foresee happening, this is the group of young defensemen that you're going with. So this is going to be the biggest audition that they've had at the NHL level as a collective. Looking at the forwards, I'm interested to see how the young forwards close this season, where they are used in the lineup. Mentioned Frondell, but also like how are you using Oliver Moore? Is he getting top 6 opportunities, bottom 6 opportunities? Ryan Green, we've seen a lot of him in the top 6 this year. Top line with Connor Bedard. Like, is he going to get more of that, or is he going to kind of transition to that middle or bottom 6 role? Nick Lardis eventually will get back up here by the end of the year. That's my expectation, at least, because you're very likely moving Jason Dickinson, if not also maybe Ilya Mikheyev, maybe Nick Foligno, but unlikely. But you're at least opening up some of those forward spots, and I got to imagine that Nick Lardis is going to be the guy that's going to take that spot once it opens up. So how are you using those guys? Are you giving them the big minutes? Are you letting the kids play, so to say, and giving those guys those opportunities where then you kind of shuffle back an Andrei Burakovsky, or you might shuffle back Tavo down the lineup a bit to give those young players that opportunity to close out the year?
Yeah, we talked to Steve Peters yesterday, and he mentioned for the Hawks to realistically make the playoffs, they probably have to have 18 wins out of their last 25 games. That's not happening. There's no chance of that happening. So I want to see Jeff Flaschel go young and give these guys opportunities. And look, you still got to play your Bertuzzis and your Teravainens, and you should, of course. They've gotten you here, especially Bertuzzi, who's having a great year. But I want to see Nick Lardis get power play one time and get meaningful shifts with Connor Bedard or Frank Nazar or whatever it might be. But, I don't want to see Nick Lardis on the fourth line. I don't want to see Oliver Moore on the fourth line. I want to see these guys who you envision as the future forwards of this team and the future farmers of America to get time that matters. Big minutes, 15, 16, 17 minutes as a forward, including power play, penalty kill, depending on who we're talking about. Time to implement them as if they are difference makers on your team, because in a year they're going to be, and you've got to get some answers.
Yeah, I foresee this team getting much younger than it is right now.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fun to see those kids play. This is still that first true wave of the rebuild hitting the NHL level. With, Lardis was in the same draft class as Bedard. So was Oliver Moore. Getting these guys here and seeing what they look like right now as still very raw, young NHL talent, and seeing what you can kind of use this final 20, 25 games as a launching pad in the next year where they're going to have elevated roles. 25
games ago, despite the playoffs being a near impossibility, tons to pay attention to as the Blackhawks wind down the season.